Hey everyone, my name is Nick from Arcanium Academy. Uh, I'm the Arch Wizard of this academy, and I'm going to show you how to do a terminal-based workflow on a Mac machine. Um, I used to use Linux, and then I moved to Mac about 6 years ago. Um, no regrets, no regrets. My favorite thing about Mac is Brew and how the packages are always super up to date. Okay, so the first thing is, of course, we're going to be using Iterm2, which is the best terminal that I know of for Mac. So you're just going to go download Iterm2. You're going to download Zshell. It's just this pretty bleat command you can type in to get it. And then we're going to be using Vim as our text editor. Reasons why you might use a GUI-based text editor. It really depends on the plugins, right? Vim has like a bajillion plugins. It has pretty much everything you ever needed. But if you are working for a big corporation and they said, hey, you need to use this specific format or plugin, that might be a good reason to use a GUI-based editor. Otherwise, to me, it slows me down pretty tremendously. So we're gonna try. Our goal here is to stay as close to a terminal as possible. The only time we should be going into a browser is to look up documentation, download stuff, or go check out whatever website we're building. So we're gonna hop into Iterm2. So of course you can just type in any command. The Zshell install script, you should just be able to copy it and run it. And I already have it installed. So there's a so cat means concatenate the file. So we're going to concatenate a file called Z.sh. And the reason I'm showing you this is that this is your configuration for Z-shell, so you can do things like update your whatever it's called, your little shell thingamabobber. And you can do all sorts of themes and configurations and stuff. There's really cool program called Z, and you can do stuff like Z test, and it'll just know where to go. Z test front end, it just knows where that folder is, and the way that you program Z is just by CDing to all your folders. So if you had like this folder you were working on called like backend sub library, you could just type Z backend sub library, and it would just know, because you've changed directory to that this many times, that that's where it is. So Z is like super good for just navigating between folders in a project that you've been working on for a while. So you're gonna want to download Z and Z program for Z-shell. It's actually kind of hard to find. It's yeah, here it is. Z-shell Z. Jump quickly to directories. This is just my favorite like little thing. It's a native Z-shell port, so you can install it using this tutorial. But yeah, you'll end up putting that somewhere in your Z-shell RC file. The other thing is you're going to have a Vim RC file, which just configures your Vim. Vim is our text editor. You can learn Vim. There's a billion tutorials out there. I'll link one. Vim seems really hard at first, but it's like editing text at the speed of light. So get good at it. It's great. Vim has a ton of plugins. I recommend using Pathogen as your plugin manager. Pathogen, the best part about Pathogen is how easy it is to install. So you can just copy and paste this script. It'll install Pathogen. Then if I wanted to install a Vim plugin, for instance, I want to do a Vim-javascript plugin. Usually they have a Pathogen installation method, and it's as simple as cloning the directory to a very specific spot. So I'm just going to git clone it. And it didn't work because I already have this installed. And that's it. So once you do that, you just hop into Vim, and you should have here, we're going to make something called test.js. So the second I make it called test.js, you can see the syntax highlighting pops up. So yeah, that's pretty good stuff. And if you haven't used Vim, the benefit of Vim is I don't have to take my hands off the home row keys. I can just do Shift $, and that'll take me to the end of the line. 0 will take me to the front of the line. Shift V will highlight a line. Shift V will highlight a line. And then X would delete it, U would undo. So it's just super fast, super great. I mean, I'm sure I don't need to talk too much about Vim, but you could also use Emacs. That's totally cool. But don't use Nano. I'm watching you. Okay, so let's get to the meat of it, right? So the meat of it, in my opinion, is screen splits and panes. So I'm going to show you how to do a split. So you would do Command D to split vertically, and then Command Shift D to split horizontally. And this is really useful when you want to edit multiple files or run multiple commands at the same time. So if you're working on your front end, you might be editing your main file on the left. You might be editing a supporting library file on the right, and then you might actually be running it on the bottom right, so you can see the output. And this is the basic workflow. So I've got this index file open in Vim, so I just did vim index.js. I edited it, and now I can just go over to the right pane. So the way I do it is Command Alt Right. Command Alt up, down, left, right will get you from pane to pane. And now I'm going to Control C to kill this program, and then I'm going to hit up to go to the previous command I ran, which is node index.js. So I'm just running the file, and ta-da! Now it has my updated file. Now most modern web development tool sets have watching of files, so you're going to have some kind of watcher that just checks whenever index.js changes, and it's just going to reload your front end most likely. So you shouldn't have to manually Control C and go back, but some people, especially like backends or like a microservice you're working on, you're going to have to obviously restart the program when you change it, right? Like if you're writing a Go program, for instance, right? Okay. So I usually start with about 3-4 splits. But depending on the size of my screen, as I'm digging deeper and deeper into the code, I might do more and more splits. So once again, Shift Command D, Shift Command D. I might go up to 8 splits, believe it or not. And at this point, I might be working on my front end over here. I might be working on my back end over here. I might have a worker opened. And then for the worker, I might have the main file here. Let's say I'm like debugging the worker, but I just want my back end and front end running. I might be editing all my worker files kind of at the same time. So you can imagine at the bottom right, this might be a database layer file that hits the database. At the top right, this might be kind of like a glue layer that does business logic. And at the top left, this might be my, my route/controller layer that builds an API. Oh wait, we're talking about workers. Well, let's say I was talking about backend. It would be like that. But if we're talking about workers, it's probably something, instead of having an API, it's more like just pure business logic. But anyway, so this is kind of like the command center, right? So you can edit a worker, change it. You can edit your backend, change it. You got your backend files up here. You got your front end files. And if this starts to become too much to you, that's totally cool because you can just make a completely new screen. So the way you do that is just Command T. and Command T will start you with a new screen. And then the way you get between those is Command left, Command right. So this might be my front end screen, this might be my back end screen, and then I might be doing my worker stuff here. You can kind of drag panes to other screens as well if you just want to get a pane out of your screen. And you can do Control D. If you kill all of the panes on a screen, the last pane, it'll just kill the screen. So for instance, Control D here will just kill that. If I wanted to kill a pane here, you can do the same thing. So I would have to quit out of Vim, and then I could just Control D, and that would just kill that pane. Right? And this is basically what I do. There's so many more commands you can use. In programming, it's not always important to know all the commands, just enough to do your workflow, and you can go from there, and you can build from that. And it's more about just understanding the big picture and building a workflow that works, right? So when you find yourself doing something like reaching for your mouse all the time, maybe that's time to think, is there a shortcut for this? And you might want to go look it up. But once again, if it works, it works. I'm not a perfectionist by any means. I'm not going to teach you, an entire list of commands. I'm just showing you what works for me. So yeah, that's basically my workflow. A nice historical mention here would be that this workflow is very similar to Screen, which is an old Unix-based, it's been a while since I've used this, but similar concept. You would have to like Control B %, or Control A. It really depends on how it's configured. I actually can't get Screen working. Okay. Holy shit. Okay. So tmux as well. These are like for old school like bash terminals. You would use like tmux or Screen, and that will give you the ability to create new panes and split panes and stuff. But it was all fully virtualized, whereas this is actually just creating a completely new bash window for whatever you make, and it has nice little things like an X and a drag bar and all that stuff. So this is more GUI based, but if you want to be more hardcore, you could look into tmux, which is pretty awesome, and Screen. But yeah, that's my basic workflow. Of course, you can just Command Tab back to your browser and do whatever you want. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions or anything you want to learn about, like if you want me to go into more detail about something, just hit me up, comment or whatever, and yeah, I'll pop some new videos out to you guys hopefully next week. If you like this, just give it a thumbs up, I guess. I don't care.